Welcome to Rhode Island Soapbox. This evening's show is going to be with Dana Wright, a new author of a children's series called Rolling with Nia. Welcome, Dana.
Welcome, thank you.
And her guest, Adrienne Newsom, her aunt, her motivator and supporter.
Hi, Lynette.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Dana, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so we can lead into where Rolling with Nia came from.
Well, I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. I went to Catholic school, St. Paul's School, actually in Cranston. And I guess all my childhood, I was mainstreamed. I grew up with, kids and had friends in the neighborhood, was in a regular classroom, actually with my cousin. And I didn't really have a lot of peers that had disabilities. Mm-hmm. I was in a normal classroom. And I was always just Dana. I wasn't looked at as Dana with a disability. My friends, if you ask them, they were like, Dana doesn't have a disability, it's just Dana, I may not be able to shoot a basketball into the hoop, but I could dribble on the playground with the basketball in my wheelchair. I would, swing double dutch. A lot of the times the girls didn't want to swing, they just wanted to jump, so they would call me like, can you swing, can you swing? So a lot of the times, I would just be Dana. No one really considered me as a disability. And then I was also brought up with my mom and my aunt and my family members and friends that I could do anything that I set my mind to, that I was just like everybody else. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create the book, Rolling with Nia, is to give other kids that encouragement and that empowerment.
So, since you grew up with people accepting you for who you were, what did you find from the rest of the world and how people looked at others that had disabilities?
That's a good question. It actually wasn't until I got into high school that I started to see the barriers that I was up against. 2 times or 3 times I had an opportunity to maybe go and volunteer or get into an extracurricular activity, then to come find out that I couldn't attend because the place wasn't accessible. So using an electric wheelchair, I started to see all the barriers that I was up against, and this became very frustrating to me because all of my childhood I was told, you can do anything you set your mind to, you're just like everyone else, reach for the stars, all of that, which was really good. But then I had all these other things that I started to notice, like the real world, like maybe this building's not accessible, or I wouldn't be able to get transportation. So then I started to become real frustrated and started to think, now I need to take action to help other youth that may have disabilities, get the same opportunities as everyone else.
Great. So you became more or less an advocate, and you wanted to build awareness. And through your series, who's your target market? Who's your target audience?
Oh, I have 2 target audience. It's kids in general. I wanted to create Nia because I didn't really have peers that had a disability. Like, I didn't know anyone, so I always thought, that maybe I was just the only one in the world that wore leg braces, that used a wheelchair. And I wanted to create Nia as someone where kids with disabilities could look up to, because when I grew up, I didn't see on television or in books that I read any character that really reflected some of the things that I could identify with. So I think that it's really good to be able to have a character where a child with a disability could say, wow, she's just like me. And I can relate to her. And she does everything else, and she likes to play ball, and she likes to jump rope with her friends and with all the other kids. And then I wanted to create Nia to also give kids without disabilities the chance to see, have the images out there that, we live in such a diverse world that, we can be accepting. And I noticed that a lot of the times my friends' kids and my younger cousins, they just see me as Dana. They want to ride in my wheelchair. All the kids that grew up with me, so they don't really look at my wheelchair as an issue. My little cousin just always, she sees me, my little cousin Allie, and she says, I want to ride in your wheelchair, Auntie. And the first time that she saw Nia, her reaction was like the greatest reaction. She said, "Auntie, she's so pretty." And it was like, and she even identified with the wheelchair, and she said, "That's just like your chair." And so I think more images out there in the media, out there on television, in books, will allow kids to be more accepting. And because kids are accepting, they're very accepting, and they may not, be so shy when they see somebody that might be different than them.
I just wanted to bring up something, as I think a minority in this society, it's very similar to what Dana's talking about. I know when I looked for books for my kids, and even at one time I started collecting angels, and you look for books that have images that look like you and your children. And it's very frustrating when you can't find books that have people of color in them. And it's the same thing for people with disabilities. When they see nothing that reflects them, it can be, you're like, why? Are we invisible? So I think that applies across the board to anyone who's not like everybody else or part of a majority.
I was going to ask, to build on what Dana had said, and saying how she, in the family, she was treated as normal. This was Dana. She was Dana and not the girl in the wheelchair, although to her she was different than anybody else she had seen. How was it for you and your family to be supportive of Dana, and how did you go about that?
I think Dana's right. We just, we expected that she was going to keep up with everybody. We treated her just like everybody else. Her and my younger son are the same age. They went to school together. Dana participated in everything. Actually, she moved to Providence when, how old were you, Dana?
5. I was going to be 5.
Yeah, she was 4 going on 5. And, it was always just expected. She was going to go to a regular school. And my son, actually, they were in the same class. And he would carry her book bag.
I must owe him about thousands of dollars for carrying my book bag, because we had textbooks that were this thick, and that was his one job. And he would carry my book bag every day, and we'd give him like a quarter or 50 cents.
But other than that, like I said, we all just expected that Dana was going to do what everybody else did, and she did. I mean, she kept up with everything and, made her way in the world. Good. And actually, she went to Rhode Island College and graduated in 3 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So she was always, I think, very driven. And I think that comes from having to deal with overcoming obstacles. You do become very determined, a lot more so than sometimes kids who have no obstacles to overcome.
But I think, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it was that mindset from everyone, like close family, close friends, that always would tell me this. And then it wasn't until, like I said, in high school that I started to see the barriers. And then 2 of my teachers that are really good mentors, Mr. Haley and Miss Wendy Aronoff, they looked at me one day because I was so frustrated. I can't remember the exact situation, but I just remember there was a program that I was supposed to participate in, and then I couldn't because the place wasn't accessible. And they looked at me and they said, "What are you going to do about this?" And I'm like 15 years old. And I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I going to do about this?" And they said, "I want you to go home and think about it, and think about what you're going to do about this, because you have a voice." And they told me, you have a voice. And with their support, and then my family is telling me, like, you can do anything, you can do anything, I went home and I thought about it, and I thought, I'm going to make this big organization, and I'm going to make every place handicap accessible. And then I realized that you need money.